Narrative Control, Episode 1, When Censorship Looks Like Safety. So let's talk about it. It doesn't arrive in a uniform. It doesn't kick down your door. Modern censorship doesn't announce itself.
It whispers.
Smiles. It offers to protect you, and that's how you know it works. Because if people saw it for what it was, a system built to manage thought, to mediate access to truth, to decide what can be seen, said, or even searched, then there would be resistance. So instead, it wears a different mask. It speaks in the language of care, of protection, of safety. You don't lose access to information. You're being protected from harmful content. You're not being silenced.
You're being fact-checked.
And the accounts that disappear, the voices that vanish from feeds, well, they weren't banned, they just
violated community guidelines.
We now live in a world where censorship has been rebranded as public health, as moral responsibility, as progress. But language doesn't change reality, it changes how reality feels. And the more benign the words become, the more dangerous the system grows. Because the most effective control is the kind that you don't notice. So censorship used to look like burning books. Now it looks like removing misleading medical claims. It used to be men in black robes deciding what could be said. Now it's terms of service. It's trust and safety teams. It's content moderation algorithms. But the intent is still the same: to narrow the range of acceptable speech so that what remains feels like freedom, but isn't. We haven't ended tyranny. We've just learned to brand it better. The old chains were visible, the new ones are
ergonomic.
You don't see them because they wrap themselves in you, your preferences, your safety, your curated feed. The result: we have more content than ever, but fewer ideas. We have more access to information, but less contact with the truth. And all of it feels normal because censorship doesn't look like censorship. It looks like care. It looks like a concern. It looks like someone is just trying to help. But you don't protect people by limiting what they can ask. You protect systems by doing that.
That's exactly what this is about.
They use language as a weapon. Words are the most powerful weapons in the architecture of control. Not bullets, not bars, not bans. Words. Because with the right language, you don't need to silence anyone. You just redefine what their speech means. A question becomes a threat. A concern becomes disinformation. A pattern becomes conspiracy. And suddenly those who challenge the system don't need to be debated. They can be dismissed. Censorship isn't words. Because with the right language, you don't need to silence anyone. You just redefine what their speech means. A question becomes a threat. A concern becomes disinformation. A pattern becomes conspiracy. And suddenly those who challenge the system don't need to be debated. They can be dismissed. Censorship isn't just the act of deletion anymore. It's the act of relabeling. Instead of proving someone wrong, you pathologize them. You don't refute them, you diagnose them. You don't need to show that their ideas are dangerous. You just need the phrase, "This is harmful." And in today's digital climate, that alone is enough to shut down discussion, to trigger deplatforming, to activate algorithmic suppression. Because the words we use aren't neutral, they are permissions. Disinformation now means anything we agree with. Extremism now includes an emotional tone. Safety now means disobedience or obedience. It means obedience. And once you give someone the power to define those terms, you've given them the power to define you. This is why narrative is the battlefield. Control the dictionary and you control the debate. Control the meaning and you control the future. This is algorithmic ease. It doesn't start with a takedown, it starts with a slowdown. One day, your post gets fewer likes. Next, your comments stop showing up. Your notifications disappear. Your engagement drops by 90%. But your content hasn't changed. You've just been ghosted by the algorithm. This is the new censorship. Not visible, not traceable, no flags, no bans, no explanation. Just a digital silence that follows you around like a shadow. It's called shadow banning. But even that word is being erased. Platforms deny it exists, and that's the beauty of it. You can't prove what isn't there. You just slowly disappear from the conversation until one day you stop speaking at all. This isn't silencing, it's suffocation in a way. Designed not to punish you, but to exhaust you. To teach you that speaking freely has a cost. Not a dramatic one, a quiet one. They won't break your legs, they'll just delete your reach. They won't jail you, they'll just keep you in a feed that nobody sees. The algorithm becomes a social sorting system. Your visibility becomes a reward and obedience becomes currency. The more you align, the more you're seen. The more you question, the more you fade. This is not freedom of speech. It's freedom of speech that no one hears. And that, in many ways, is more effective than any ban because it creates the illusion that you're still participating when really you're just shouting into a soundproof cell. At least that's what it feels like, huh? So what's the new Inquisition? In medieval world, censorship was a torch and a tribunal. Speak the wrong words and you'd be dragged before priests, tortured, branded, burned. Today it's a little cleaner. The gallows have been replaced with group chats. The heresy trials happen in comment sections. The punishment isn't fire, it's exile. Say the wrong thing and you won't be whipped. You just lose your job, your bank account, your access to platforms, your reputation. We've entered a new era of social inquisition. It doesn't matter if you're right, it matters if you're approved. Moral standing is no longer earned, it's granted by the platforms, by the crowd, by invisible moderators with unchallengeable authority. And if you refuse to apologize, if you don't post the statement, if you don't bow to the dogma of the day, you're not just wrong, well, you're dangerous. You're not aligned with our values, you're a threat to community standards. But who defines those values? What is the standard? What is community in a world where community is coded into software and your status is determined by how closely you echo the dominant script? This is not freedom, it's a faith test, and every platform has become a pulpit. You're not debating ideas anymore. You're trying not to be cast out. And fear of exile, it keeps people compliant, silent, and most importantly, predictable. It doesn't matter if you're thinking, it only matters if you're performing, and the performance never ends. The question is, why does this work? What are they playing on? What's at play here? This is psychological incentives and a fear architecture. Censorship today doesn't operate on force, it operates on psychology. And the most powerful psychological force known to human beings is fear of exclusion. We are social creatures, biologically wired to need belonging, to feel safe inside a tribe. When you're cast out, even digitally, your nervous system doesn't know the difference. You feel the threat in your chest, you feel the silence in your inbox, you feel the disappearance of eyes on your work. You don't get arrested, you just get removed from the conversation. This is called soft control. No bruises, no bars, just 1,000 quiet signals that tell you, speak less, agree more, and don't do that. You learn to self-regulate, you begin to pre-censor, and the more you fear being cast out, the more you begin to ask yourself one devastating question.
What am I allowed to think?
Not say,
Think.
That question is the triumph of the system, because once you ask it, it doesn't matter what
They ban.
you started banning yourself. This is the genius of modern control. It doesn't just punish disobedience, it rewards conformity. Yeah, conforming. It rewards that. Think about that. You get algorithmic boosts for playing nice. You get dopamine when your opinion fits the narrative. You get validation when you echo the script. And so you adjust, one sentence at a time, until one day you stop needing to be silenced because you've learned to stay silent on your own.
But at what cost? Safety is the word that sells it all. The systems don't promise truth, they promise security. They don't offer wisdom, they offer comfort. But there is a price. Every time we accept censorship as protection, we trade something sacred. Our ability to confront, to question, and ultimately to evolve.
Because truth doesn't grow in protected gardens, it grows in wild places, in discomfort, in disagreement. Real safety isn't freedom from ideas, it's the strength to face them. But in today's culture of curated safety, discomfort is seen as danger. Complexity is labeled as confusion, and the moment someone feels challenged, the system steps in to correct it. We don't teach resilience anymore, we teach avoidance. We don't elevate the mind,
we pad the cage.
But what happens to a society that fears every sharp edge? Well, it starts growing. We lose satire, we lose irony, we lose art, we lose faith in our own discernment. And in exchange, we get an illusion of peace, wrapped in language, coded in policy, and marketed as compassion. But it isn't compassion to mute the world, it's cowardice. Because the price of safety, if demanded at every turn, is the death of freedom. And freedom, once lost in silence, rarely finds its voice again. So then we ask the question, who gets to decide what's true? Here's the part that no one wants to say out loud. If speech can be silenced, if opinions can be removed, and if search results can be filtered, well then someone is deciding what counts as truth. Not by evidence, not by logic, but by authority. And the most dangerous truths to any system are not the lies people tell, but the questions people ask. Because a question invites thinking. Thinking invites uncertainty, and uncertainty invites freedom. So what do these systems do? They answer the question before you can ask it, with labels, with warnings, with curated search, with
"Here's what you need to know" banners
at the top of every platform. But who decides what you need to know? Who decides which narratives are elevated and which ones are erased? Who decides what qualifies as silence, as misinformation, as harmful? These questions rarely get answered because they're not meant to be asked. Instead, we're told, trust the experts, follow the facts, and rely on the platforms. But experts can be bought, facts can be framed, and platforms serve their shareholders, not your soul. This is the modern priesthood, invisible gatekeepers of an invisible orthodoxy. And if you don't comply, you're not just wrong,
you're immoral,
You're a threat.
you're the problem.
But here's the real threat. Isn't the one asking questions. It's the system that's terrified of them. Because if a question can topple your reality, it probably wasn't built on truth in the first place. So what's the cure for an illusion? The cure isn't rebellion, it's awareness. This isn't a call to war, this isn't a manifesto for rage, because the system doesn't fear your anger, well, it feeds on it. Anger is predictable, it's measurable, it can be categorized, redirected, pacified. What it fears is that you simply start seeing, not with rage, but with clarity. That you begin to notice what's missing, that you pause when a warning label shows up, that you ask, who benefits from this version of reality? You don't need to see, you don't need to yell, you need to see. Yeah. Because the moment you see it, truly see it, well, you can't unsee it. You can't be guilted into silence. You can't be baited into division. You can't be lulled by slogans that sound like compassion but serve as control. The illusion breaks, not when the system fails, but when enough people stop believing in it. And from there, a new kind of resistance begins. Not loud, but be aware. Not reactive, but rooted. The world doesn't change when the censor fails. It changes when the people stop whispering their truth, start living it out loud. Awareness is the first step towards sovereignty.